And good morning to everyone. Welcome once again to our Sunday Worship Connection. My name is Dr. Reggie Hudson, overseer and senior servant pastor of the New Union Embrace Church. And we're excited to have you with us today. Today, once again, we're going to have a special presentation. And I'm going to kind of title it God, Faith, and Life. So glad to have with me today three young men, and we're going to be blessed. Amen. Now, you see, Brother Ty is not with us. His schedule changed, praise the Lord. But if he was able to be with us, we'd have all of them here. So it'd be a greater party. But certainly we have, let's say, the elder statesman, my son, Reggie Hudson. And then, of course, we have Pastor Tim Simpson and Minister Marcus. But for this case, we're just going to be going with Reggie, Marcus, and Tim. So glad to have you with us. And we want you to share. We want you to certainly put those hearts out there, those thumbs up, because what they're going to share today is so needed, especially in the time we're in now. So when we talk about the now, the next, and the future, we definitely have the now and the next here present. So good morning to you, gentlemen, and so glad to have you with us. And we're about ready to get started. So just first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of, obviously who you are, your family, your occupation, anything else you want to throw in there, and we'll go from there. Marcus, let's just start with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcus Quarles, and my profession is I do sales in food service and food packaging industry rather. I'm married and from, outskirts of Mount Kisco area.
Like that. Okay. All right, Reg.
Yeah, Reggie Hudson, husband, father. Professionally, I am the vice president of advertising operations for a media company, currently living out of New Jersey.
All righty. And Tim.
Good morning, everyone. Tim Simpson here, born and bred in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, currently residing in New Rochelle and have been for the last, maybe 12, 14 years.
Yeah.
It's been a great time in New Rochelle. I happen to love it here. I went to school here and then just thought I'd never leave. Married, 2 kids. Professionally, I work for a large real estate company, and I'm currently their regional experience manager over North America and Latin America.
Wow, that's excellent. Excellent. As you can see already, these young men are already just, shaping life. And of course, I need not say they all have a deep-rooted faith in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who they put first, and then they honor their families, and then they do the other things they have to do. And that's kind of what we want to talk about, because we're living in a time now for Black men, whether they're young Black men, middle-aged Black men, or ancient ones like myself. It's a challenging time. It's a challenging time, but yet it's a great time. The book I shared a few weeks ago, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. So we want to delve into that a little bit, and I want to hear from them, basically their view on where we are now with all the things going on, good, bad, and indifferent. And then I also want to get their perspective on things they think that needs to be shared and really pursued to help us go forward in so many areas. So let's just start with that. What is it like being a young Black man in this 21st century? You just go at random.
I'll hop in since. Okay,
Reggie.
I think that can certainly be answered from many different facets. The 4 of us on this call obviously represent 4 different perspectives, different age ranges. But there's so many more perspectives to take into consideration as well. I think we all are coming from, young, professional, all married, all, families, and maybe that's in the from Marcus as well. But there's so many more people that are out there, specifically Black men, that should be considered in this conversation that either don't have that opportunity to be where we are, or haven't, taken the steps to be where we are. Not to say that where each of us are is kind of, the most comfortable space to be in. But I think the question that you ask is certainly kind of broad, and we could take it from a bunch of different perspectives.
Mhm.
Where I'm at right now, and just looking at how things are, I think it's continuing to try and understand myself in the different roles that I play as a husband, as a father, as a professional, but also as just a Black man in general, walking around the streets. A lot of times these days it can look like it's the 50s or 60s, in 2022, regardless of all the accolades and achievements that you have acquired. So, being who I am and as confident as I can be in all that I've done in my almost 40 years now, there's always still some sort of questioning what's going on. And I feel like as Black men, there's a lot of that, regardless of what stage you are in life.
Yeah. Marvin Gaye's song back in the 60s, What's Going On, is more relevant now than it was when it first started. Tim?
Definitely, I think I have to agree with Reggie. I think this topic is always, it can be such a broad stroke, and sometimes I feel my experience may not be the same as everyone else, right? I grew up in Trinidad, a Caribbean island, so that sort of topic of race and racism on an island where, we're predominantly Black, and race and racism on an island where, we're predominantly Black and we've come from different races. I never really had to deal with that until I moved to the US. So my experience growing up as a young man was truthfully never affected by that. I went to one of the prestigious, high schools in the island. So, you're exposed to just a different, scope of society, I would say, right? And then, you come to the US and you really get a different experience as to, the Black experience, whatever that may be, and it tends to sometimes be coined to, something that's negative or in a not a positive light, or there's always a struggle behind it, and that's not always the case. And not to minimize that, because I think that is important as well. But just my experience, it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit different personally. Professionally, it's a little bit different as well. I think in my very, very early career, I was in a room with, predominantly, white men who were quite successful and were multimillionaires and billionaires, and I had to hold my own. It didn't even click to me that I was like the only Black person. It just didn't click. I was just like, oh, wow, I'm the youngest here and probably the brokest here because I'm fresh out of college, right? That's to tell you how I never came in saying, oh, geez, today I'm the only Black guy here. It's like all these millionaires with their multi-billion-dollar businesses that I'm trying to support, right? It didn't even hit me like that. And I think, I thank God for it, because I think in my career, I've never really had those moments. I think I'm now more conscious of who I am in the workplace and how I show up, not only spiritually, but it's also being authentically ourselves, right? Now I'm less of the, the vernacular that may be considered corporate, and I'm just myself. Sometimes I'm cut it up, and I talk how I wanted to talk, and sometimes I switch over to professional based on who I talk to. We say boots to boardroom, so it could be kicking in with the janitor, it could be, talking to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company who I just ran into, who's asking me random questions about the business. So I think that experience is very different, and as Reggie said, not highlighting this experience as the best experience, right? But it's just what I am true to, and I think I can only affect those in my orbit, right? And sort of help, others along the way who may need that. And I think, being married now, thinking about raising kids now, and just having relationships now in today's world, that also brings a bigger, sort of weight to it, because you think, wow, how I'm showing up now for my wife and for my kids, right? It's so much different than how maybe we need to show up 10, 15 years ago, right? It's not just providing, it's really being present. It's the word my wife likes to use, being vulnerable, right? And what that means as a man, okay, and not just saying, hey, I provided financially, but being that emotional, that spiritual support. So I think that's changing, right? And I think as men, there's this less sort of machismo, do it all. I think people are really looking for just an authentic, genuine truth, right? People want to hear the highs. I think they're also inspired by the lows. And that's what I bring to it. I think when I think about it, it's less of what that experience is and more of how I'm showing up, you know, in every aspect of my life.
That's beautiful, beautiful. I did think about the fact too that, you know, the racism piece didn't really hit you until you came to America, you know, so it's
Totally.
just
Yeah.
what an adjustment. Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. In addition, you know, to all that is kind of, I think we all touched on it, is, you know, we want to change the narrative, you know, changing the narrative of the Black man in society, and doing the things that we're doing currently, you know, from our professional career, our families, as well as, you know, setting the example for the next generation. You know, I think that's the biggest thing, is kind of, and it's pretty much a test to it that most of us are, you know, actually all of us are married, you know, so that's kind of a big thing, a little thing, but it's a big thing, right?
It's big.
It's a big thing because the stigma, because of what the stigma says, right? That's a ginormous accomplishment, if you will, to start off, and you know, just kind of being able to change the way the generation looks at some things, and doing the best that we can in the areas and the communities that we can do so. For me, raised in the area where, you know, I may have been like the only African American, you know, in my friend group, or there's a few in my class as well in the area. So it's kind of like I had to always be at a different place, you know, than I was like, where I was exposed to a different area as well, but I always had to held myself at a higher standard to be able to talk and to be able to walk and move in different areas and aspects professionally, and as well as like when I went over to my friend's house to talk a certain way, or even when I picked up the phone, you know, my mom would always say that they shouldn't know who's on the other side, whether you be African American or Caucasian, what have you, but you should be able to talk and to be able to speak well for yourself, if you will, for lack of a better word.
That's awesome. Wow. If you're just joining us, we welcome you today to this Sunday's sermon to these young men. We're talking about God, faith, and life. I have Marcus Quarles with me, Tim Simpson, and Reggie Hudson, and they are just pouring out some things that are just powerful, encouraging, and very necessary. And what I love about it, these are young men that you can reach and talk to and speak with. And that being said, in your young lives, well, let's go back to this. And I know Reg and Tim mentioned it to some degree. I want to narrow that scope from that first question. When you were coming up in school, let's just say high school, what was it like for you in terms of socially? You know, I think you kind of mentioned maybe educationally, how you fit in, didn't fit in, whatever the case may be. And when did you know or have an idea where you want to go, where you want to go in life? Tim?
You know, that's a really good question. I think, you know, socially, I joined extracurriculars. So I was a Sea Scout, and that really developed, you know, I think a lot of character, a lot of discipline, a lot of leadership. You know, I became a troop leader, so I was leading the troop, and that, you know, you're dealing with like a lot of different kids from various backgrounds, with parents with various expectations, right? And, you know, you just experience so much more than you would in a standard classroom. So that I'm always very grateful for. And I think I never really, you know, in school, some people have that laser focus as what they want to be, which is fantastic. I don't think I was ever like that. I think I was just like, let's see what this feels like. You know, let me try. Is it going to be, you know, am I going to be a diplomat? Am I going to be a businessman, whatever that means, you know? I think I gravitated towards hospitality and hotel and tourism because it just really aligned with my personality and, you know, what I like to do. And I've carved out a career from that. But I think, you know, you can't experience what you're not exposed to. So I think for me, raising my kids, I want to expose them to as much as I possibly can, right? I don't want to just limit their experience or their expectations. I want to expose them to everything. I just don't want them to be, you know, at the beach. I want them to also be skiing. I just don't want them also to be in, you know, on track and field. I also want them to know ballet or swimming, you know, not forcing them into doing a million extracurricular activities, but really encouraging and fostering a mindset of, hey, something you like, let's try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, also great. If you happen to have a natural passion and talent and love for it, wonderful, then let's pursue that, you know. But I think you really have to be exposed to it, right? And if you look at, you know, a generation of people and we think, you know, what are they exposed to and what they're experiencing, right? All of that is really funneling through social media right now. And we limit these expectations to these perfectly, you know, coiffed and choreographed, like, you know, pictures and frames and, you know, 30-second videos. And the exposure is now to aspire to these, you know, short clips, right? And TikToks that may not necessarily be the total gamut of what life is, right? It doesn't show the trials. It doesn't show really what you build character from, right? So I think we always have to be mindful. And that's what I'm grateful for really in my high school years, really what I was exposed to and what I was able to experience, because I think that really shaped that the world is more than just the bubble. I know it's more than just Trinidad and Tobago. It was more than just, you know, coming to school in New Rochelle. It was more than just, you know, hotels and hospitality and my first job in this like really small independent firm, right? But I had to be exposed to that. So I think what I always take away is like, I want to make sure that I'm giving my kids as much exposure to what the possibility can be and showing them that they too can, you know, achieve their dreams and reach for the stars.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Marcus?
So for me, it was a little bit different. Mine was kind of when I was growing up, the exposure that I was given. I was exposed to a lot of things, a lot of areas, a lot of different aspects in life. So that's kind of how I was able to navigate where I wanted to do with life. But at the time, I actually did not want to go to college. So that was probably the biggest hurdle. Matter of fact, my mom applied for me to college, and that's how I went to college. So from there, that's kind of where I was able to really focus my career and kind of what I wanted to do. I was always kind of a good communicator and kind of a lot of people drew to me rather. So kind of I always was able very, very social. So that's how I kind of got into sales. And I started off in a very, very small, I guess, small office, if you will. And, you know, what they did was kind of my first job out of college, I was actually doing door-to-door sales. So, and pretty much on 100% commission, and that was the best I could do, you know, at the time. And I was told that if I was able to do that, I could do any job. I could do anything in this world if I could do door-to-door sales. I did door-to-door sales for about 3 years, and that's kind of how I got into my sales experience and navigated from there.
Wow, and folks, he's very good at it. Marcus could sell water to a drowning man. So he's just that good. Reggie?
You know, a lot of how I came up probably was very similar to how Marcus did because we grew up in close proximity. But I moved around a lot coming up. So, you know, as a child, I think you get a lot of your cues from your core group of people. So I don't really have that core group of people that I was coming up with consistently throughout the ranks. So by the time I got to high school, you know, I really relied on a lot of my experiences outside of high school. So, you know, whether that was through the church or through, you know, media or something like that. And, you know, a lot of that shaped my experiences for where I am today. And honestly, I'm very thankful for it. And it's something that I try to share with others because, you know, when you, as a parent, when you send your kid to school, you don't know what they're going through throughout their day. Right. And this is, you know, kind of going back to what Brother Tim said, just more present and recognizing the cues that your kids are giving off and trying to understand more of how their days are going. Understanding how I kind of learned a lot outside gives you more of a cue as a parent now to be more present in your kid's life and help them understand that, you know, yes, your schooling is one aspect of your life, and, you know, your parents or parent or aunt and uncle, godmother, whoever, you know, can contribute to your life in other ways outside of school as well. Not to be long-winded in my answer, but from a religious aspect or religious standpoint, if you think about other religions, when they send their kids to public school, they get their, you know, regular education, regular learning. They come back home after school and they have additional curriculum afterwards, to which they're learning culturally about who they are, their history and all that. And this is not specific to us as Christians or Black people, but kind of those two things combined, we don't really do that as much. And that's something that we probably, I would suggest to us as people that, we need to participate more in the outside of what our kids are doing, right? Because the education that's coming, that's something that is, it's drawn up, it's put together by the government, it's put together by the educational system. But we want to be able to be that background for them, to give them the historical understanding of who they are, who we are as people, because who we are is who they are. So, obviously a very long-winded answer.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. I'm glad you said that, because just like you're talking about, for your generations now, future generations, you'll find out, certainly as a parent, if you're willing to find out, that as you grow, I always say nobody's born a parent. And as you grow, as you get older, you coach your children from the time they come into this world until they get out of your house. Yeah. Then the minute they get out, you counsel your children from the time they are born until they get out of the house. After that, you coach them. Okay, because things change, dynamics change. They're making decisions for themselves. You can be a resource and vice versa. So what I'm saying is that you always go back and say, if I had to do this over again, what would I do from a parent's perspective? What would I do different? And one thing I would be, now, Reggie's a PK, Marcus, you're a PK. And one thing now I look back, I would have done differently is, too late. Sorry, Reg. Sorry, Alexis. I wouldn't have had y'all in as many afternoon services. Although y'all did do a good job of escaping with Pastor Quarles, Marcus and them, but I wouldn't have, but see, in my generation, that's just how we did it. And we talk about coming different generations. We were in a society filled with drugs. We were drugged to church every time the door opened up. So it's a difference there. Saying that, what you shared about after school, you're just confirming some things, and especially now with CRT being such a big deal, critical race theory, we're not going to get it really in school. If it's going to happen, it's going to have to happen outside of school in some sort of a forum or something of that nature, and that's a whole different discussion. But you see young men like yourselves now, some doing well, some not doing so well, some just don't know what to do, and some have adapted to a societal culture where they just feel good just being in that thing. It really bothers me now. We've gone through this, well, we're still in this COVID era, but not like we were in the beginning. And I heard 2 weeks ago, many companies, businesses, whether it's white collar, blue collar, whatever, jobs that were being made available during COVID. And I'm talking about jobs where you get more money than you would normally. Now they're rescinding them because things are starting to change. And then, of course, we have the Great Resignation. A lot of your generation is in the middle of this. Some of mine too, but a lot of your generation. Can you put some context to that, and just to share with our audience perspective? Reg, you want to just jump in there?
Yeah, man, I think, you kind of speak about two different things, right? It's the loss of a job versus the resignation. I think the resignation is probably a positive cue to where we are in a society, because if you think about it, there's more self-made entrepreneurs now than there ever have been. That's not factual. I'm not fact checking by any means, but you see more people that are making money without having a regular 9-to-5 than I've ever seen. And I think that is a great thing, because you can make more opportunities that way, especially in an era that's becoming more autonomous. And AI is certainly, I worked for IBM for a few years, and AI is here, right? Like it's going to take a number of jobs out of the market. So
Now, what is AI? Just for those of us who are dinosaurs.
artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Okay.
It's going to take more jobs out of the market, at a very high clip. So if you're being creative and you have the opportunity to be able to figure out how to make money on your own, I think that's a great thing. I personally, I work for a company, and if you can find a job that can be consistent and do so, and provide for yourself and your family, I think, that makes a lot of sense as well. But in terms of the Great Resignation, that's probably why you're seeing it at such a high rate. The one thing I would say is just try and be as stable as you can while still trying to pursue your dreams and goals. When it comes to, job loss, that's the flip side, right? Those are people that are actively looking to work, but for some reason their skill set is no longer being deemed necessary in whatever related field that may be. So that creates a chain effect and creates a strain on neighborhoods and environments. When if you think back to the 80s, probably when drugs really started to infiltrate, you had soldiers coming back from war, have the jobs available, drug use was there, and then you started to see a real shift and breakup of families. And, that created a real ripple effect. That could potentially be something that's going to happen here if we don't collectively think about how to position ourselves a little bit better, and how we, the people that are I don't want to say well off, because and anybody could be one paycheck away from a downslide, but
yes, Lord. Yes,
as
Lord.
long as you're in a positive position, you have to be willing to reach back and help out others to sustain. Especially somebody that looks like you, right? Like that's not saying to not help everybody out, but I'm all about being willing to help.
Okay. Let me just add to that Great Resignation, what you said before about more entrepreneurial growth, and I'll throw this out there for Marcus and Tim if you want to chime in on it. A question: do we find with this Great Resignation that in many cases have led to personal business, things like that? How much of it do you think includes our people? You know what I'm saying? Because looking on, I'll flip the other side. I see so many now that could work, and I know it's a little bit different than what you're saying with resignation, but won't. I mean, the stimulus checks came in, and that just kind of created a whole different set of attitude. Now, what you're talking about is the one that aspires. So Marcus and Tim, what do you think from that standpoint? What Reggie said, with this Great Resignation, it's a great time to just do your own thing. We like to talk about 7 streams of income. How does that apply?
I think one aspect of that resignation is really, and you hear time and time again, right? Two things. People want more flexibility to work, right? So the issue of working in the office versus working remotely, that's a big aspect of it, because during the pandemic, I think pre-pandemic, the office was mandatory, sort of during post-pandemic, it really is optional. People realize, hey, when the office is optional, I have a better work-life balance. I recently read an article when a guy said he knows he's being paid significantly less for his role and he can make more money, but the fact that he has more flexibility to, work wherever he likes, that is just a bigger value add for his overall life and well-being and sort of, his comfort, right? So I think that's one aspect. I think the other aspect that we have to talk about is really, the work environment. Like, you hear about toxic work environments, and they really do exist, and people have been subjected for so long that now they're like, in the age of, everything is an option, and I can go and make, quick bucks and be an influencer and, influencers could make upwards of $1 million, right? So I can start putting together these funny videos and I can amass X amount of followers. And if I hit, 150, then I could start influencing. I can get, this much pay. And if I double that to 250, I get this much pay. And then, that's sort of the aspect. And I think a lot of, Black creators are really, diving into that realm. I mean, you see their videos on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. And I'm truly happy to see it, because they're really carving a lane. They have become the true influencers of influencers, right? They're setting the tone, whether it be dance or comedy or what have you. I think that's always fantastic. So I think that's one aspect of the Great Resignation. I think in terms of the talent pool, listen, I'm all for everyone being an entrepreneur, right? I'm all for it. Pursue that passion. I think we also want to be strategic, you know what I'm saying? So pursue that passion, make sure there's a need for it, make sure you are, there's not only a passion, but there's a vision and a strategy. Make sure you're also meeting a need. And I think we don't hear that too often. We think, yeah, go into business yourself, forget that 9 to 5, Beyonce came up with a song, You Won't Break My Soul. So leave your 9 to 5, do what makes you happy. And that's all that I love that notion. But I also think it's like, we need to have a little strategy, right? Is your business meeting a need? What is the long term? And listen, in every business, especially if you're doing a startup, and I've worked with startups, so I know there is a grunt period where you just like in a tailspin and sometimes in a struggle, right? But you have to have not only a vision, but a strategy to really say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to get the right, talent. I'm going to figure out, the right mentors. I'm going to carve this way. I'm going to apply myself. Because I think people think I'm going to resign. And the option is that I'm going to, make it on social media, or or start a hat business, or start a t-shirt business, and those are all wonderful ideas, and you can be successful with that. My only encouragement is that we always think a time to really understand that this is a business, and you're doing this not just as especially if it's your primary source of income. You want it to be successful. You want to take lessons from from the first time, the second time, and apply it to the third time. There's a resilience, and there's a knowledge, and there's a sort of true determination when you want to talk about entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Awesome. Marcus?
Yeah, so with a couple of things, with that, a lot of people, we're in this time where, like we said, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs and to do their own thing, right? For me, I come from the school of having a consistent stream of income, for your family, for yourself, for your individually, your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, and just having a solid foundation. I also feel like there's a lot of times where people want the flexibility, but don't want to do work. That's kind of the other thing that we're dealing with. And the pandemic was a crazy time where we were able to do a lot of flexibility, like you said earlier, for stimulus checks and things of that nature, and people got comfortable. So that was kind of a little bit of a challenge as well. And now it's hard to actually, we see all these businesses that can't find help, can't find people actually to do the work, so, you're dealing with a lot of different aspects and variations of challenges that we're going through right now in society. But, I definitely, I want to be an entrepreneur as well, right? But I also know that I'm shooting to also have 8 streams of income, 7, they shoot for 7 streams, but I know that I want to have a 9 to 5 actually as well. I mean, and at the time, if my business, continues to flourish and I'm able to get rid of my 9 to 5, I certainly will, but not until I'm at a place of stability.
Awesome. Those are some powerful answers. And I like the diversity of your answers. Your network system. Now, all of you are talking from these perspectives, and it just didn't come just because of you just talking. Each of you had to go through some sort of process, whether it was intentional, whether it was, it just turned out to be that way. Tell us about the need for a network system. Like, it can be socially. It can be in terms of your career. It can be in terms of what other category you want to put into it. But do you have a networking system, or do you intentionally stay away from that? If so, let's see, Marcus.
Absolutely. I come from the school of you are who you set yourself around. You are the 5 people that you set yourself around. those that stretch you, those that build you up, having a foundational support system, and kind of having those people there that can be with you and tell you the right things and tell you the wrong things. At the time, especially growing up, actually, it's funny, Reggie was one of those people that were that for me, and was able to, put me in a position where I'm able to be, even to this day, I'll reach out to him and ask him a question. I'm going through a challenge, if you will, professionally, or if I need help with something, I would, ask him a question and he'll be able to help me. That's someone that I look to as someone that is a stretching person, right? So you need to have those people. And then I also have a close friend group as well, and they push me as well. And, of course, from a spiritual perspective, I need people around me that push me in that aspect of my life as well. And each person is different, but I'm a big proponent, and I agree with that 100%, that you definitely need a strong support system around you if you want to be successful in life in different areas. Awesome. Beautiful. Tim?
I think, network is important. I think with network, it really is a give and take, right? Some people think about network, and I was one of the people, I was really sort of adverse to networking because I didn't want to be just like this grubby person always trying to meet the next connection so that it would hopefully open up a next door, right? Yeah. So I tend to develop relationships a little bit more, right? So you would hardly have me hear me use the word network. It's a relationship I'm developing, right? And whether it be professionally or personally, it's a relationship, and it's a relationship that is long-standing, right? And I think it's a two-way street, right? I want to be a benefit to someone and a blessing to someone, and I hope they would be a blessing to me. And there is no set expectation around that. Like, I'm not muching up to the vice president, or I'm not muching up to the CEO because I want to be Nigga Graces so that they can remember me for something. No, I'm going to be authentically who I am. And if you like me, you think I'm doing a good job, great. You know what I'm saying? And if I can be a benefit or a mentor to someone, great. And, people talk about mentors and all these things, and I think mentors are great to have. I think, I have never had like a traditional, this one person I call up to for all the time. No, because I take my sort of mentoring cues from a group of different people because I admire them for one thing or the other, right? I see great qualities that I think, wow, that can really be a benefit to me as a leader. Or I think, wow, there's so much wisdom there. I like that, So it's always to me sort of like a microcosm of different people for various different reasons. And I tap into them at certain times, and people think, especially career-wise, you hear, build your network, and that's great unless the network. Some people, I was unemployed for a year and the network didn't come through for your boy. So I'm just like, at the end of the day, it was God, right? Like, yes, you just have to, and that's why I say you sort of have to, people rely on that. No, it's true, because people think, oh, yes, network. Yeah. I look at everybody in my phone book, and it's still gonna say, oh my God, I hope you're gonna get something soon. You're great, you have a great resume, and that's all well and good, But some people work, for others it doesn't. But I don't think it should ever be a deterrent, right? I think sometimes for maybe young people, maybe people of color, people who may not have had parents in like the corporate world, this may be something totally new to them, right? And how to even approach it. So my advice will always be, focus on the relationship and everything else will work through, right? I think that's the goal. You want to be a good, friend, a good partner to someone, and, in hopes that they would also return that to you.
Awesome. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, just like both of the guys. I think we've all probably heard it before. Your network is your net worth, right? Mm-hmm. And not networking in the term that everything is a professional interaction, but to what Tim was saying, is building relationships. And I think you find value in building relationships and understanding how they feed into you. So you might have a professional network that can help you kind of cultivate and build in that area, but then you have your friends network, right? So my wife and I, we have a group of friends that we call our circle of influence. And those are the people that we travel with, we feed into each other that way. We talk business, and there's an intersection there professionally, but, we talk well-being more, right? Like, how we doing personally, how we doing with, our day-to-day. And you don't always get that from your professional network. So you kind of have to have levels of what your network are. So you have this huge kind of spider web of people that you are interconnected with. And I'm an introvert by nature. It's not something that I would want to go out and do, but it is super important. And, when you think about it, all of these people are going to continue to feed into you in varying ways. If you're the smartest person in your group, you're in the wrong group. If you are the richest person in your group, you're in the wrong group.
Wrong group.
All of those different things, like you're feeding off of the people that are there,
Yeah.
and you're also giving to the people that are there. So I think having a strong, solid network is very important to personal growth, collective growth, all of that.
Hey, listen, I hear you. I'm a little introverted myself, so I know what that little struggle is and everything. You guys have really been blessing us. We got just a few minutes left, but certainly I hope those of you that are viewing, a New Union family, Embrace family, guests that are chiming in, we have these three young men, powerful young men, Christian men who love the Lord and raising up families and have accomplished a whole lot. And the thing I love about it with them is they're very humble. I mean, each of them have done some things, and they have been a powerful inspiration to me. I had to, change some things, talking about circles. And change is not easy. I don't care where you are. It's not easy, especially if the longer you do something, the harder to change. So I think Tim and Marcus can verify that. Rich too. Yeah, a little bit, but I'm talking from a church perspective, business perspective. I've had to change some things. Some things I'm still holding on to, though. Can't give up the teddy bear all the way, okay? But in the little bit of time we have left, we have about 5 minutes left here. I just want to give each of you a chance just to share something, that you feel just needs to be shared that can just be a blessing. Tim?
Definitely. I think, we talk about, and I think it was Marcus who mentioned it, right? This polish that we have to have. And I worked in, hotels for a while, and hiring, in hotels, we want, we're more inclined to people of a certain polish. We want them to have a certain vernacular. We want them to present in a certain manner, right, that we think is going to be well received by our guests. And I think the shift now in a number of industries, but definitely hotels, is that, we want people to be, we don't want to be homogeneous anymore, where all of us are the same. We really want to stand out, right? We want people to be impactful to someone's experience, right? And I think now, especially in today's society, I think everyone coming into the workplace should be themselves, right? You should be authentically who you should bring your full Christian self and your full Christian beliefs. It doesn't mean you're walking with the Bible or thumping anyone over the head of it, or singing, gospel songs, or doing, a worship break, during your lunch. But you should really show up as to who you are. And if something, say, bless God. If something goes good, say, I'm going to pray for you, right? And recently on a call I had with my team, I said, honestly, I really do love you guys, and thank you for being on my team. And they just look stunned, right? Because they probably never heard a manager say that to them.
I'm sure.
But that's showing up. I always tell them, I said, listen, life as it is crazy. At work, we want to come together, we want to do a good job, and we want to show up. I said, but bring your best you to work, and if you think there's a day where something is too much for you, then feel free to use that PTO and take that day off, but if you're coming in, I want you to bring your best you to the work. So I think that'd be my advice to everyone. God created us, each and every one of us, uniquely. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and he said that in his word for a reason. So you should go out in the world knowing that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bring your wonder wherever you go.
Beautiful. Reg?
I think Brother Tim said a lot of it, but, just kind of adding on to it, stay consistent, don't let anybody knock you off your square. And us as men, women as well, don't be afraid to tap into, your neighbor, your friend, your coworker, your family member. Pride can take us all down, right?
Yes.
So,
In a hurry.
don't be afraid to ask those questions. Effective communication is probably the key to any type of success in family life, professional life, all of that. So really anything that I would say would just be additive to what Tim said. Beautiful.
Marcus?
Yeah, the biggest thing it would be pretty much is to ask questions. There's the silliest question is a question that you don't ask. That's how I got through a lot of situations in my life, is that I asked questions, not being afraid of the answer, but I was able to ask the question even when I didn't understand it. And I've had a lot of managers and directors that have not given me a leg up, you know, being a African American Black man in a lot of the areas of work that I was in. I had to prove my success. I had to prove there was a lack of confidence in my skill set, if you will, and I had to prove myself. I was never given a leg up. So, but I was able to ask questions and did what I needed to do along the way. So I would just encourage that no matter what happens, just to make sure that you continue to follow through in everything that you do and don't take no for an answer.
Wow. Guys, you have blessed me. I know you've blessed our viewing audience, and yes, they will be back at another time because we didn't even scratch the scratch of the scratch. But it's just so. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
It's the wrap up music.
Hey, listen. Now that's when you do it original, it happens like that. But no, I just do want to say to our viewing audience, after hearing this, there is a salvific message in it. They shared their family lives. They shared their professional lives. They shared regarding social networking, so forth and so on. But more importantly, they gave their hearts to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, at a younger age, which is good. But if you might be in your senior age, today we want to give you a chance to receive Jesus as your personal Savior. He loves you. I don't care where you've come from. I don't care what you look like, what you have, what you don't have. He loves you today. It's important, and this time especially, to be saved. To know that, God forbid, tomorrow doesn't come on this earth. You'll spend eternal life with Jesus, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the church in eternal bliss, eternal paradise forever. But you got to make sure, as much as we can accomplish on this side, we can't wheel it to the grave. So if you're looking at us right now and you say, I want to get to know Jesus more, I want to be saved, or I feel Lord in my heart right now, do me a favor, call our number 914-632-3627. Give us your name. Say, today, I want to come to the Lord. I want to be saved. Give us your name and your number. Speak clearly. You might be looking at us. Maybe you've been a part of the Lord at some point in time. Something happened. It's not our business to know what happened. All we want you to do, and all the Lord wants you to do, is just come on back in. You do the same thing. Call that number, 914-632-3627, and say, I want to come back to the Lord. Leave your name and your number. And by chance, you might just be looking for a church home. We'd love to have you be a part of the New Union Church, Embrace Church. We're not a perfect church. There is no perfect church, but we serve a perfect God. Give us a call. If you live at a great distance and you can't get to us, maybe you can only get to us once a month or twice a month, or maybe you can't get to us at all, but you want to be a part of the fellowship, you can join our Embrace Church online church, and it'll be getting the same thing that people get when we are in person. So do that. As always, we thank you for sowing into our ministry. It helps us to be able to carry out the mission of the Lord. Our theme this year is New Union Church of New Rochelle, a place to connect, connecting families, communities, and generations. Certainly, come and join us this month as we're these next 12 weeks as we're talking about a topic. He is Lord, but is he Lord over you? But right now, we're going to invite you to go to our giving platform, Givelify. Also, you can give through our website, nucnr.org, and we just tab down and just use your card, debit card, credit card. It'll be a blessing. New Union, you know what we do. We continue to do it. Now, remember, next Sunday, third Sunday, we will be in person, and you want to be there in person. And yet, I know those looking online love it, but in person has been on fire. We're going to be doing part 2 of our series. It's important now, as much as all these things happen in life, we got to make sure our families, our friends, and our neighbors know who Jesus Christ is, that they're saved and get saved and be a part of a church. You can't have Jesus without a church. That's his word, not mine. Okay? So we're excited about that. It's going to be our Holy Communion Sunday also. Have a blessed afternoon. Again, thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Reggie. And to our viewing audience, like I always say, only what you do for Christ will last. Have a good afternoon, everybody.